Hey everyone, I'm Jackie, and this is Jackie's Literary Corner. And as you can see, I'm gonna do a review of The Night Circus. This is my second time reading this. I just fell in love with this story all over again. And the story centers around a magical black and white circus and two magicians who fall in love even though they are meant to compete against each other. So we have our two main characters, Cecilia and Marco, and they are the children of these two magicians that have been competing for years. Hector Bowen, aka Prospero the Enchanter, and Alexander. I don't remember his last name, but it's an H word. Alexander and Hector and Alexander have this thing going that every 10 years or so they will meet up and they will have us take on a student. They will train a student in their own different unique ways, and those students will compete against each other until death, essentially. And they always have some mysterious venue, and Hector puts off his own daughter Cecilia, who he was given to take in a long time ago by his ex, and Alexander picks up an orphan from off the street and takes him and trains him. And that Revan Avenue Rev Rev I can't think of the word venue for this is this magical circus. Marco passes himself off as this apprentice to this entrepreneur guy, Chandras, and he comes with this idea of making this magical, mysterious circus called that only comes at night. And let me think what is it called? It's not called the Night Circus. Le Cirque de Rêves. The Circus of, I think it's called the Circus of Dreams or something. And I never figured out that word. I need to look up that word. I don't know if I would find it, actually. And they have like contortionists, they have acrobats, and all sorts of people with these skills. And it is the backdrop for these two magicians. Or Cecilia is taken on as the magician for the circus, and Marco is, like I said, the assistant to Chandras, who is the owner of the circus. But unfortunately for Hector and Alexander, Marco and Cecilia slowly fall in love with each other through seeing each other's magic and trying to figure out who their competitor is. And we also have a subplot of this young American boy named Bailey who is enchanted by the circus and is drawn to it. And during this, and because of happenstance, he comes to the circus. He is dared to come to the circus by his sister when he's a little boy, to break in there and steal something. And he ends up coming across one of the members of the circus, a little girl about his age, named Penelope, although she calls herself Poppet. And she escorts him out because, of course, he's not supposed to be here. But when he tells her that he was supposed to bring something back because he was dared to go into the circus, she gives him her glove. And ever since then, she stays with him. But he moves on, goes about his life until the circus comes back into his life when he's a teenager. And he goes back to the circus, and we learn us and Bailey learn that he is more connected to the circus than we realize. His destiny lies with the Circus del Reeves. This is such a beautiful story. I love it. Most people talk about the whole Marco and Cecilia storyline, but there are so many other characters like Bailey and Chandras and Erthesian. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He is a clockmaker who's become sort of a caretaker for the circus. He makes sure he like kind of runs a club that has to do with the circus. Like he leads, like, you know how you have fanboys. Well, he's like the ultimate fanboy, and he has his own like a club that of people that are fans of the circus and will follow the circus. He's like the representative, the leader of the club. He's the president of the club, fan club of the circus. And you have the Madame Padova, and you have the Murray twins, which is the little girl that Bailey meets. The girl that Bailey meets. You have, like, so many other characters, not just Marco, Cecilia, and their father figures. Or even Tsukiko. I still don't know how to pronounce her. My dad told me, and I asked him because he's been to Japan and he's familiar with the language and stuff. So I asked him how to say her name, but then I always forget. And that's the same thing like when I've been reading Russian classics. I've been trying to get into Russian classics. And I love Crime and Punishment. I had to ask him how to pronounce some of the names in there, but then I kept forgetting, so I kept having to ask him. But at that time, when I asked my dad about that character's name, I had been almost done with the book anyway, so. Erin Morgenstern's writing is so beautiful and so magical and so descriptive. It's just enchanting, like the circus, and you just get lost in everything, and you can easily picture everything, the sights, the sounds, the smells, and you just really feel for these characters, and you just get lost in the story. It feels like, especially with the love story, it feels like a fairy tale. And it's so enchanting. Like, I can't think of any other word to describe it. Enchanting, whimsical, magical. And her, like I said, her writing is so, so amazing and beautiful. And there's so many interesting characters. And it's funny, it's been so long since I read it the first time that I forgot how connected some of these characters were to the story, to the conflict. So it was like reading it for the first time because there were so many aspects of the story that I forgot. Like so many other characters I forgot were in the story. And rereading it again reminded me, it's like, oh, that I forgot about Bailey, or I forgot about like Erthesian, and I love all the characters. The only characters that I was a little apprehensive to see Sukiku Kaiko. I didn't know if she was on our side or not. Especially towards the climax, it seemed like I was, nervous. Oh my god, what if she's not on our side? She's not, like, trying to ship Marco and Cecilia. Although she has good intentions, and I can understand her hesitations. And the only characters I just hated, but they were still good characters, they made interesting villains, were, Hector, Bo, and Alexander. Although Hector, I think, is more of a villain than Alexander, because Alexander isn't even in Marco's life. But he's very cold towards Marco. He's a cold fish, and he's very distant with Marco. But then at the end, towards the climax, he seems like he's the lesser evil between the two gentlemen. Hector seems like not kind of a douchebag. He's horrible and pushes his daughter and feels he's even colder than Alexander is. I think Alexander shows at least some sympathy for Marco and some affection for Marco and some willingness to be like kind, try to help him. While Hector just doesn't, he has forgotten to love. Because he's one of those people that sees love as weakness. And he keeps telling Cecilia, don't work with other people. You need to do this on your own. You're better off doing this on your own. He keeps telling her that, and he doesn't understand why she thinks sometimes it's not a bad thing to work with others, to have other people help contribute to her magic. He doesn't agree with that. He thinks that's bad because it's better to be alone. And it's kind of sad. I pity him, but I hate him at the same time. I want to punch him in the face. So he's definitely on that list of characters that I hate and can't stand. I just think they're so heartless and, but yeah, I love the story, and I get why I think I have heard people say that they feel like it's a very insta love story between Mark and Cecilia, but I feel like not. I think you could argue that if it's not necessarily insta love 100% because I feel like the two of them get to know each other through their magic, and sometimes it does happen like that. I mean, not like after a day of spending together. So funny in the movie Enchanted with Amy Adams and what's his name from Grey's Anatomy, McDreamy. I can't think of his name. They kind of make fun of that because she's a cartoon princess who comes into the real world, and she's telling McDreamy's character, Robert's his name in the movie. She's telling him about how she's looking for her prince, and every Prince Edward, and she's like, we've only known each other for about a day, and we're so in love, and we're gonna get married and live happily ever after. It's like, you're kidding, right? You've only known each other for a day, and you already think. And he's trying to explain to her that it doesn't work that way. You can't just know someone for a day and then know that you love them. There's so many more factors involved. Like, you gotta get to know the person, you gotta be willing to accept all their flaws. And I think these two, and to be fair, they're also in this crazy situation. They're supposed to be competitors in this match, and they're caught up in the magic. So it's like, to be fair, it's just like, I used to say that I felt like in Les Mis that Marius and Cosette's love was insta love. I still kind of think that, but my dad made a good point. And that they're in a situation where they're in the middle of a revolution and they are in a time where they could die, like, really young. And I feel like it's kind of similar with this. They are in this part of this magical, whimsical, powerful circus, and they're supposed to be competing magicians, and one of them might die, one of them might not survive. And and they're bound, and they're also like bound to each other magically. So I definitely understand. So I definitely think you can make an exception with it. Of course, I could be wrong, and I could be thinking of people saying that about her next book, The Starless Sea, where it's insta-lovey, but I remember way back before The Starless Sea came out, reading a review that said they felt like this could be considered insta-love. But yeah, this is definitely an amazing story. It's a little bit slow moving, but because I've already read it, it went by fast for me. But I think if you're reading it for the first time, it could potentially be slow going, depending on the kind of reader you are. But I really would love for this to become, like, a movie or a TV series or something. And I think the best interpretation of this could be a mini series where it's not as long as a movie. I mean, it's longer than a movie, but it's not as long as a TV series, where you can still cover the whole story because it's a chunker book. I mean, I do think it would still be a pretty decent movie if you made it into a movie. I do think that's possible, but I think some people wouldn't be entirely satisfied because, just in my experience, like, even the Harry Potter movies, looking, like, now, years later, I look back and I feel like how much some of the movies missed. There's so many things that I wish the movies could have included, but I know they couldn't because they had to focus on the main conflict, which is Harry's conflict. But, like, there are a lot of aspects in the books that they couldn't include. Now, this is only one fantasy book, which, that's another thing, another positive, it's a standalone fantasy, so it's not a series. Starless Sea has nothing to do with this book. It's just, the only thing they might have in common is it sounds like it has a bit of a fantasy element, too. Like this one, but they're not connected as far as stories, they're not sequels. The Starless Sea is not a sequel to this one. It's a standalone. So if you just want to try out fantasy, but you don't want to read a big epic series, then I recommend this one. So those are my thoughts on The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. And as you can see, I don't really have any negative thoughts about it. So if you like this review, please give a thumbs up, click subscribe if you want to see when I post more videos, get notifications, to click the bell notification below. If you've read The Night Circus, feel free to share in the comments below and what you thought of it. I'd be curious if there were people that didn't like it, why they didn't like it. And whether you're reading on The Night Circus or not, feel free to share what you are reading or what you have read. And if you're going to read The Starless Sea, I'd love to know that too. Don't tell me what you thought about that one, because I want to read that one first before of course, I probably will love it because I'm easy to please. I'm easy when it comes to books. And I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!